decades and is currently deploying security and compliance infrastructure solutions for their large customer base. Amir, you're going to tell us about eliminating blind spots in your security audit.
I am.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. As said, my name is Amir Yampel. I don't expect any of you to be able to pronounce it, but that's okay. And I'm going to talk today about some blind spots that many of you may not even be aware of. I work for I promise you that I work. Okay. It's not moving. Oops. No, that's not what I wanted to show. Start with this. Okay, so I work for a company called ObserveIT. 2 words about the company. We're an Israeli company, and by the way, I heard before that you were talking about Stuxnet and other things, blaming Israel for that. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I promise to you. But if you want some more information, you can come to me after that, and I'll give you some names and email addresses. Anyway, the company was founded back in 2006. We are focused exclusively on auditing people, auditing users. The first product was released back in 2007. Till date, we have over 400 enterprise customers from many sectors. Financial sector, as you can see, is one of our strongest one, but I will not talk too much about the company. What I do want to talk about is blind spots. One more thing about a company before I will continue to blind spots is what is ObserveIT? ObserveIT is a software product that acts like a security camera that you can put on the corporate servers, and basically it does 2 major things. The first thing is capturing video recordings of all users' activity. Every mouse click, every keyboard stroke, every user activity is being captured, and the result is a video file that you can play for forensics evidence. In addition to that, we collect a lot of textual data that is associated with the video file, which can help you to search within the video file, but also it helps you to generate logs. Logs for any application, even for applications that do not have and do not produce their own logs. I want to start, when I'm talking about blind spots, I want to start and talk about a bank. There are some people here that represent banks or financial institutes. There are some. Okay, so this is a bank. The bank have, you will find branches, physical branches. You will also find their computer servers. By the way, there's a lot more money on that side. The banks invest millions and millions of dollars in access control tools. There are some that you would deploy in the branch, and there are some that you would deploy on the servers for remote users. Some are more user-friendly than the others, some are better than the others, but they do have access control on both. However, one of the things that you will find is that the banks, the branches, are covered with security cameras. However, there are places where most of the money is that you don't really have any security cameras. Now, does that make sense? I want to talk with you about that. So as I said, the banks or many other companies invested millions of dollars in preventing users from accessing their servers, in allowing specific users to do specific things on those servers. However, once they have allowed those privileged users to access their servers, they don't really know what they are doing on those servers when they are logged in. And this shows on the news all the time. There are a few examples here from the past 2 years or so of huge organizations. I'm talking about Bank of New York. I'm talking about Fannie Mae. These are large organizations that are very tight with regards to security. Still, you can read about fraud, about stolen identities, about time bombs, and about many things that happened. These users were granted with privileged access to the servers, and they were smart enough and knew how to hide what they were doing on those servers. And this is simply because there were too many blind spots that they could not be audited. Some of you might come to me and say, hey, but I have the best SIEM tool in the world. Does anyone here implement a SIEM tool in the organization? No. Log managers? No. Do you know what it is? I hope so. Anyway, some people have the greatest and best SIEM products. However, if you go to the vendors' websites that talk about their SIEM products and log managers, you might get a very nice picture. They paint the rosiest picture ever, and they say that all your security and compliance issues are going to be solved. But are they? Where are these blind spots coming from? Your SIEM relies on logs. However, if your applications and systems do not log it, your SIEM product will not show it. Those SIEM products and log managers, they rely on things like database logs, like network logs, like system logs. However, this is not a complete picture. There are too many applications and systems that do not really produce any of those logs. Here are a few examples, and I will try to talk in more details about 3 or 4 of them in a minute. But these are things that can take place either on Windows servers or Linux server that don't really have any logs. Okay? If someone is going to change the IP address somewhere, it's not going to be shown in any log. This is what I call a blind spot. If you're talking of things that users might do on the desktops, for example, they may be working on a cloud application, like Salesforce. Cloud applications do not have logs. Some of them do have logs, but these are logs that are not trustable. The auditor will never accept a log that was downloaded from the cloud. There are legacy systems. Yes, they do have logs, but these are debug logs. These are logs from developers to help them debug systems. They are not usage logs. And if someone is doing something with those type of systems, it will not show anywhere. There are also things that you would run on published applications on your Citrix box or terminal services that do not have logs. Now, one of the tools to help you to address those blind spots issues is user activity logs. And this is something that ObserveIT does, of course. What are the user activity logs and the other logs that you see on the screen here? If you take a crime scene, as an example, and you will find fingerprints on that crime scene. These are just like the database logs and the network logs and the system logs. It tells you something about what happened, but it doesn't show you exactly what happened, and it will require a lot of investigation to really understand what happened at the crime scene. However, imagine that you would have had a camera at the crime scene. Wouldn't it be much more helpful? Wouldn't it tell you exactly what happened on the crime scene? Yes, it would. Now, how does this fit into the complete security ecosystem? So you have the tools for identity management, you have tools for access control that basically tells you who can access your networks and what they can do on your networks and servers. At the end, you have your SIEM products and log management tools that will be able to create great reports for auditing, for compliance, but also for security investigation. And the tools that are going to feed those SIEM products are actually logs that are generated from the different systems and applications, which one of them is the user activity logs. Now, what are these user activity logs? First of all, they augment system logs and database logs. In addition, they help you to create and generate logs for any system, even applications and systems that do not have their own internal logs. It shows you exactly what the users did once they were logged onto the servers. And one more thing that it does, it impacts human behavior. Users that knows that they are being recorded will act differently. Just like imagine yourselves driving on a highway. If you know that there is a if you know that there is a speeding camera on the road, I guarantee to you that you will slow down. In the same way, if users know that they're being recorded, they will be more cautious about what they do. And you probably know that the statistics that most of the problems and the security breaches happened due to things that internal users are doing, users that were granted with access to the organization. If you want to read more about it, we have a document that was written by Dr. Anton Chuvakin, who is one of the opinion makers in the area of security and compliance, and he's talking about all those places where logs wouldn't really help you to to get your auditing passed. Here is the first example of one of those blind spots that I was talking about. Imagine that you take a server and you enable all logging to report to the event viewer. And then you go, we did this test actually, so I know the statistics about it. And then what you do is you go to the, and change the IP address settings. What you would do is just delete one IP address and add a new one. This can create bypassing firewall settings, and it may interfere with proper execution of critical events. Now, it takes about 30 seconds to do this change. If you look at the event viewer, you will see that during these 30 seconds, there were nearly 11,000 log entries that were generated. Most of them are from the type that is called object access event, that has nothing to do with this operation. If you will search for the IP address, for the number that was changed, it will return you with false hits. And it really, really needs high-skilled people to be able to analyze it and tell you that this is what happened here. Second, if you're looking on a Unix environment, Linux environment, someone was trying to do something, an unprivileged user wasn't able to do that, went to another user, a privileged one, to the root user, and asked the guy, could you please help me and grant me with rights, with sudo rights? So the guy grants him with sudo rights, and then this user can do some changes that can actually allow him to run very, very sensitive commands. Again, this thing will not show anywhere. Even if you will run AuditCTL or AU search, which are the auditing tools, you will have no clarity about what sudo rights were given to this person and what this user actually did after he was granted with those rights. Example number 3, take a service and run it as administrator. Of course, this can enable remote hacking and affect system configuration. This is very dangerous. If you'll do that, you will see that it takes about 40 seconds to make this change. And during those 40 seconds, 24,000 log events were created in Event Viewer. Now go and try and analyze that. Even if you look for the word cryptographic, which is the name of the service that was actually changed, you will not even find it there, even if you'll try to search it there. And it really needs a full throttle investigation in order to understand what really happened. This is another blind spot. And here is the last one that I'm going to talk about. Someone went to the web.config file, opened it with a notepad, and changed 1 to a 0. Again, this thing affects how the web server runs and is really dangerous. It has both security as well as operational implications. Again, it takes 20 seconds to make this change. 6,000 log entries were generated. 6,000. One entry indicates that Notepad was launched. Another entry indicated something else, that what was the file that was changed. But that's about it. I think that, doing some biblical archaeology investigation is going to be much easier than finding out what really happened here. What is ObserveIT? 2 words, just to show you what a product does. Basically, everything that users do on the service that they are logged onto is going to be recorded and then moved to the ObserveIT database. What you will see here on the database, as a green light, is what was the session duration, what was the logon name, and then we also create accountability by identifying exactly who was the user. Even if the user used a shared account, it's identified here, shows you what server the user accessed, from where, was it a local access or from a remote machine, and how many slides you have in this session, meaning how many actual operations were there. And then what you can do is click on one of them to expand, and it will show you step by step what really happened on the server. It's just like a table of content. Okay, and just like in a DVD chapter, if you identify something that you want to further investigate, you will click on another button on the little camera there, and this will actually play a video that will show you exactly what's happening there. Okay, so we saw all those blind spots. How can those be covered with user activity logging? So here are a few examples for that. You remember, user changed the IP address. You can very clearly here see that the user went and make some changes in the local area connection, and then you can play a video and see exactly what was the change that the user did. No more blind spot. Pseudo rights. Again, very detailed information about what the user did, and you can replay the session and see exactly that the user was given with pseudo rights, and then you can see what the user was doing. No blind spot. Run service as an administrator. You can see someone here changes the cryptographic service. Again, playing it would show you what happened. And the last one is someone was editing the web.config. You can see that someone was hacking with that. And then you will see here that someone changed the 1 to 0. Very clear, very easy. Will help a lot with the investigation as well as with compliance reports. Again, this guy. But he likes his SIM tool. So do I. And what can you do with those user logs, user activity logs? Basically, what you can do is you can take those activity logs that are textual logs, textual information, and feed it into any SIM product. In this case, there is an example of CA's UARM, where all the information that you can see on this screen is actually taken from the user activity logs that were generated by ObserveIT. Another example is the same thing done with Splunk. Okay, you can see here something that is basically something that if any of you is using Salesforce as an example for a cloud application today, this is information that is not available anywhere. Here you can see what the user actually did while he or she were running Salesforce. So how can those user activity logs enhance and enrich SIM products? So first of all, if you're looking at what SIM products and log managers can do, they rely on applications to create their own logs. Of course, with ObserveIT and tools like ObserveIT, you would be able to create logs for systems that do not produce their own internal logs. In addition to that, those log managers will show you obscure system event information, while we would be able to take the information and show you exactly what happened. What was the UI change that made this thing? This is the audit report makeover. This is what it would look without a user activity log, and this is what it would look with a user activity log. Here it's very obscure system events that don't really tell you anything, while here you can see this is human readable, and you can play a video that shows you exactly what happened. Now, what are the use cases for these things, for user activity logs? The first thing is remote vendor monitoring. Think about organizations that, as I said before, they grant access to a lot of external vendors that access their servers in order to do their jobs, to maintain the servers, to maintain their infrastructure, to fix things, to create new things for them. It allows organizations to control and see exactly what these users are doing once they are logged onto their servers. It helps them to establish better SLAs with their vendors. No longer the vendors would be able to say, we spent 3 hours on your servers fixing something when you can see that they were only logged in for 5 minutes doing really nothing. Tools like this can help you with compliance accountability by generating logs for all those things that miss logs, by allowing you to do something that is called policy training, announcing to the users that they are being recorded, but also giving them some different messages during the session, as well as tracking every access of users, of privileged users, to databases, to information, to systems. The last one that I'll talk about is also root cause analysis. Imagine that you could go back in time and see exactly what happened on the servers. So you can defeat the oops factor. Has nothing to do with security, but it's also something very good that you can get out of it. I'm not going to talk about those additional benefits, but I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, interesting product. One of the questions that I have is just how large are these video files? What sort of database is required? Because I mean, obviously, if they're capturing significant amounts of information, it's going to be something that you're going to manage them yourselves.
That's a good question, and if I'll tell you how we do that, I'll have to kill you afterwards, of course. But we cheat.
I dare you, I dare you.
I dare you, exactly.
Thank you very much,
But to be honest, I'll tell you what we do. We cheat, we bluff. We don't really capture any videos. What we do capture is we take the first screenshot, and then we record additional screenshots, but mainly we record deltas. So it's really minimal files in terms of size. So we have, for example, a customer, a large telco, that is using ObserveIT for auditing 1,000 servers, just a little bit more than 1,000 servers. And they have reported to us that they are using, that last year they used 350 gigabytes of information for 1,000 servers, which is not a lot. It doesn't mean anything because it really depends on how heavy the sessions are, and there could be users with more servers that will require less storage. It could also be the other way around. But we bluff. We don't really record videos.
Any other questions? No?
I've got someone that I asked him to ask some specific questions. No, I didn't.
Okay, Amir, thank you very much indeed.